Let me be completely honest with you right now. Most people will watch this video, nod along, feel inspired for about 48 hours, and then do absolutely nothing. And a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they will be in the exact same financial position they are in today, maybe worse. If that sounds harsh, good, because what I am about to share with you has the potential to completely change the trajectory of your financial life, and I need you to actually hear it. You know that feeling when you check your bank account and there is just never quite enough? Not broke, not struggling in the dramatic way people imagine, but just sort of stuck. Like you are working hard, you are doing everything you are supposed to do, and yet somehow the financial freedom you imagine for yourself feels permanently just out of reach. Like you are on a treadmill, moving fast but going nowhere. That feeling is not an accident, and it is definitely not your fault in the way you think it is. Here is what nobody talks about. The traditional path that was sold to us, work hard, save a little, retire someday, was designed for a different era. It was designed for a world where pensions existed, where one income could support a family, where loyalty to a company meant security. That world is gone, and the people who keep following that old map are walking confidently in the wrong direction. Now before we go any further, I want to tell you something important. We have a program linked down below in the video description that walks you through everything I am going to talk about today in a structured, step-by-step way. I'm sharing real value with you right now for free, and if this resonates, that resource exists for the people who are serious about actually implementing this. Most people will scroll past it. The ones who do not will look back on this moment very differently than everyone else. But let us get into what actually matters. Let us talk about compound interest, and I promise I'm going to explain this in a way that actually hits differently than any math class or financial article ever did. Imagine you are holding a single snowflake. Tiny, practically weightless. You place it at the top of a very long hill covered in fresh snow, and you give it the smallest little push. At first nothing dramatic happens. It rolls a little. It picks up a tiny bit more snow. It looks almost silly, this tiny little ball rolling slowly down a hill. But something invisible is happening. With every rotation, it is not just collecting more snow. It is becoming a larger surface area that collects even more snow. The growth is feeding itself. By the time that snowball reaches the bottom of that hill, it is enormous. It is unstoppable. People standing at the bottom cannot believe that little snowflake became that. That is compound interest. And here is the part that breaks people when they truly understand it. The snowball does not need you to be rich to start. It does not need you to have a windfall or an inheritance or a six-figure salary. It needs time, and it needs you to start. Now here is where it gets personal, and I need you to sit with this. Think about the money that slips through your fingers every single month. Not in big dramatic ways, not gambling it away or making reckless decisions, just quietly, slowly, invisibly. The subscriptions you forgot you have, the convenience spending, the eating out because you are tired and stressed and you just cannot think about cooking. The impulse purchases that feel small in the moment but add up to hundreds every month. None of those individual decisions feel significant. But compounded over years, they represent a completely different financial life than the one you could be living. Here is a number that should shake something loose in you. A relatively modest monthly deposit, consistently invested over a long period of time, does not grow in a straight line. It grows exponentially. Which means the gains in the final years dwarf the gains of all the early years combined. The last stretch of the journey is where the real explosion happens. But you only get to experience that explosion if you started early enough and stayed consistent enough to reach it. And here is the painful truth about waiting. Every single month you delay is not just 1 month lost. It is the compounded growth of that month, and the month after that, and the decade after that. Delay is not neutral. Delay is expensive in ways that are almost invisible until suddenly they are not. Let me paint you a picture that I want you to really feel. Imagine 2 versions of your future self. In one version, you are sitting somewhere you love, maybe a porch, maybe a place you have always wanted to travel to, and there is this quiet, deep sense of security underneath everything. You are not rich in the flashy way. You do not need to be. You just know that you are taken care of, that the decisions you made years ago are still working for you right now, that you can make choices from a place of freedom rather than fear. There is no boss you resent because you have no choice but to stay. There is no financial dread when something unexpected happens. Just this quiet, solid foundation beneath your feet. Now imagine the other version. Not dramatic poverty, just the continuation of where you are now, stretched out over decades. Still on that treadmill, still working harder than you should have to. Still that quiet background anxiety that never quite goes away. Still watching other people seem to have figured out something you have not. Still telling yourself that someday you will get serious about this. The difference between those 2 versions of your future is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not even income level. It is a decision made consistently, starting early enough to matter. Let me tell you something about what actually stops people from doing this, because it is not what most financial gurus will tell you. They will say it is discipline. They will say it is motivation. They will talk about cutting lattes and budgeting spreadsheets, and some of that is true, but it completely misses the deeper thing. The deeper thing is that most people do not actually believe it will work for them specifically. They have seen enough disappointment in their financial lives that hope feels dangerous. Starting something and staying consistent with it requires believing in a future payoff that is years away, sometimes decades away, and our brains are simply not wired for that kind of long-term faith without the right framework and support and evidence that it is actually happening. This is the cost of inaction that nobody talks about honestly. It is not just the numbers, it is the psychological weight of financial uncertainty, the way it seeps into your relationships, the way it affects how you sleep, the way it makes you shrink from opportunities because you cannot afford to take risks, the way it changes what dreams feel accessible to you. Financial stress is a silent thief of energy, creativity, confidence, and joy. And the people who have never experienced real financial security do not realize how much mental bandwidth it consumes until they no longer have to carry it. Now let me tell you what is actually possible, and I am not going to throw fantasy numbers at you or promise you something that requires perfect circumstances. What is possible is systematic, consistent, boring, beautiful wealth accumulation through a process that requires far less money than you think to start, and far less complexity than the financial industry wants you to believe. The financial industry profits from your confusion. They want you to believe this is complicated enough that you need them. It is not that complicated. The fundamentals are almost embarrassingly simple. Small deposits. Consistent timing. Time in the market rather than timing the market. Accounts and vehicles that are optimized for your specific tax situation. Automation so that the behavior happens without you relying on willpower. And the psychological foundation to stay the course when things get volatile, because they will get volatile. And the people who panic and pull out are the ones who never experience the snowball reaching the bottom of the hill. Here is something that the research bears out so clearly that it should be taught in every school on earth. The behavior of wealthy people is not primarily different at the income level, it is different at the habit level. Studies of actual millionaires, not inherited wealth, not lottery winners, but self-made accumulation of wealth, show that the dominant strategy is mundane consistency, not genius market timing, not secret knowledge, not access to exclusive investments. Mundane, boring, consistent small deposits made automatically over a very long time. The behavior that builds real wealth is available to almost anyone. The difference is in whether you have the right system, the right knowledge, and the right accountability structure to actually maintain it across years and decades. And here is where disqualification becomes important. If you are looking for a get-rich-quick answer, this is not that. If you want to feel excited for 2 days and then move on to the next thing, this is not for you. What I am describing is for the person who is genuinely tired of financial uncertainty, the person who is ready to trade short-term convenience for long-term freedom. The person who understands that the best time to start was years ago, and the second best time is right now. The program I mentioned at the beginning of this video, linked in the description below, is built for exactly that kind of person. Not for everyone. For the person who watched this entire video and felt something shift. If you feel a pull toward it, that pull is worth paying attention to. The people who act on that pull today, rather than telling themselves they will come back to it later, are the ones who will be in a completely different position when they look back on this moment. Later has a way of becoming never. Right now has a way of becoming everything. Your future self is not some abstract concept. That person is you. And every decision you make today is something that person will either thank you deeply for or quietly carry the weight of. The snowball does not start itself. But once it starts, once it really gets going, nothing about the future looks quite the same